Welcome to today to another Quran study. God willing, we'll be reading from Surah 72, verse 15, Al Jinn. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Bismillah ar-Rahman. A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytani rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Verse 15. As for the compromisers, they will be fuel for Jahannam. So if they remain on the right path, we will bless them with abundant water. So God tells us the destiny of the compromisers. Satan invites us to compromise on things, both big and small. And most, people who compromise, what they're doing is they follow their idols and false doctrines and religious laws, that are never decreed for them. One might ask, why do they do it? It could be for a multitude of reasons, peer pressure or trying to, remain friends with people in this world, that, when they get to the day of judgment, they'll disown these people, so it's always in our best, it's always wise to, in our best interest, never to compromise, especially if we know the truth, and the right path of guidance and total submission, we see from verse 16, it yields blessings, so this is the path that, every person should take, but, we know that's not always the case. But God tells us, the results of remaining on the right path, doing the right things, and will be blessed, with his provisions in this life and the next life. Verse 17, we will surely test them all. As for him who disregards the message of his Lord, he will direct him to ever increasing retribution. So here it tells us every human being must be tested. That's why we're here in the first place, because we chose and we insisted to go through this test. And as the messenger puts it, it's a very gruesome test. He put that, I think, in one of his appendices or introductions. It really is, because if you look at what we're up against, it can be. You look at the result of most people. How they either disbelieve. Most people are disbelievers, and out of those who say they believe, they don't do so without committing idol worship. So we received two messages. We received God's message and Satan's message. When we come to this world, and by those who disregards God's message, they automatically accept Satan's message. And that's Satan always invites us to idol worship. Humans are set up powerless idols. Or forget to remember, our zikrs and stuff like God is doing everything, regardless of what happens, that for the submitters, and it also tells us, this verse, that the retribution will increase with time, so it gets worse and worse, and this is just a result of siding, with Satan, disregarding God's message, because I think the messenger put it, there's either, you can either, side with God or side with Satan, he said in so many words, there's really no in between, so that's basically God is telling the people, this is what's to be expected. The places of worship belong to God. Do not call on anyone else besides God. So this is very straightforward verse. It says, the places belong to God. Notice it didn't say the places belong to Muhammad, else it would have said, the places of worship belong to God, Muhammad, or Jesus, but it doesn't say that. It says to God. So this is very straightforward. And if you show this verse, let's say to, someone who might be idol worshiping, you happen to talk to them, or they include others in their prayer. They could be praying to the saints or prophets, and if you show them this, it's like they can't see past what their mind allows them to. And it directly tells us, do not call on anyone else besides God. And yet, you might have showed this to somebody, or if you presented the opportunity, and it's they come up with some type. They could always come up with some type of excuse, But this calling on others, it nullifies our worship practices, So we receive zero credit, for prayers and making contact with our Creator. So this is a very serious offense. The messenger even talked about it at one point. He was talking about the verse that explained, woe to those who observe the contact prayers and are totally heedless. So you could have people. So many people are doing their contact prayers the wrong way, and they're not reaping any benefit from it. In fact, he goes on to say that their soul can go into the negative, which is like counterproductive. Not only do you not make an advancement or growth, in your soul or towards God, you go into the negative. So and God's made it very easy for us to understand. It says do not call on anyone else. But people insist on setting up idols. You know, Verse 19, God's messenger of the covenant. When God's servant advocated him alone, almost all of them banded together to oppose him. Say, I worship only my Lord. I never set up any idols beside him. Say, I possess no power to harm you, nor to guide you. So it's the messenger's duty to deliver the message, and that's worshiping God alone. He was sent here to purify the message, and he did a great job. And by looking at this verse, it tells us how, he's going to receive the messengers, the prophets, will face resistance and opposition, when they advocate God alone. We see this case, with the messenger, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, all the evildoers who come out of their woodworks and attack him through different means, when he advocated this and purified the message, removing the two false verses. And this is, this is one of his main duties to do this. So, and we're also told, the Quran tells us how to respond, to these people. And basically, we say we worship only God. We don't worship any idols, and we ourselves, even the messengers, we possess no power to harm you or guide you. So, this right here is another verse that, tells us God is doing everything. It's really a good understanding to have. It sheds, like he said, it sheds a whole new light on submission. So we can't even guide these people. We could maybe pray for their guidance, but if we ourselves could actually guide people, then they would be guided. As soon as I would talk to somebody, but that's not the case. Um, so if we move on to the footnote below, for Surah 72, verse 1 through 28, it says, the messenger here is named mathematically as Rashad Khalifa, to whom God revealed the end of the world, Appendix 25. The number of verses from Surah 1, verse 1 to Surah 72, verse 27, where the messenger is mentioned, is 5,472, which is 19 times 72 times 4. And we notice here 19 times 72 times 4, that's 19 times the Surah number, 72 times the number of times Rashada is mentioned in Surah 4. Praise be to God. So the word Rashada occurs 4 times in Surah 72. The value of Rashada is 504. And 504 plus 28, which is the verses in Surah 72, comes out to 532, which is a multiple of 19, 19 times 28. The value of Rashad Khalifa 1230 plus 72, the surah number, plus 28, the number of verses, equals 1330, which is also a multiple of 19, 19 times 70. The digits of surah 72 and its numbers of verses 28 add up to 7 plus 2 plus 2 plus 8, which equals 19. Also, the crucial expression, quote unquote, only to God, a messenger that he chooses, has a value of 1919, which is 19 times 101. So, we see by this irrefutable evidence, we see how integrated and intertwining the mathematical miracle is. God, he's made it easy, and this is stuff you can like open up or look at in all parts of the Quran, and it'll strengthen your faith, or it acts as a good reminder, like, wow, this is indeed sent from God. It's a miracle that can be witnessed at any time. So moving on to verse 22, say, no one can protect me from God, nor can I find any other refuge beside him. I deliver God's proclamations and messages. Those who disobey God and his messenger incur the fire of hell, wherein they abide forever. So the Quran, it shows us who has, God tells us who has the power to do anything, and that's, only God can protect you, or you can only seek refuge in God. No one else can protect you from God if God wills something to happen to you. Even with all the people's money and power, this won't get them out of hell. This won't spare them from hell if they disobey God and his messenger. It tells us it doesn't matter how rich you are, or even if you choose to ignore the fact of the hereafter, just or tell yourself it's not going to happen. That's a lot of people, subconsciously. People can do this. They just go through life and they think, oh, if I don't believe this is going to happen, it's they just end up go through life as if it's not going to happen. Which is definitely not the case. We also see when the messenger comes to deliver God's proclamations, we have to obey the messenger. And we see people who disobey. We see the result of what's going to happen to them. They incur the fire of hell, and you can usually see this from people's egos who say they think they know better than God's messenger, because that's not only harming their own souls, but it's not only insulting to the message of submission or to the messenger, but it's insulting to God and his choice. Because if someone say your boss picks out a vehicle for you, right? And you one day come and you start saying, "Oh, I have problems with this vehicle. Vehicle's totally free, It's a vehicle used for work, and he's blessed you with it." And you start nitpicking or just complaining, or saying, you have problems with this vehicle, and it's basically you're saying that you know better than the messenger, and you know better than God. So basically, if God chooses, this messenger, he's not gonna, trick us. He's not gonna, go through all the trouble of sending us guidance and wisdom, and oh, but it's almost, people need to really, people who do have problems, with accepting parts of the message, they need to examine that, because basically they're saying they have a problem with God and whom he chooses to deliver his messages through, and that's a big thing, and that takes, you have, I guess it's the ego, people want to be their own messengers, or people are jealous, or people, think they could do better, which is not the case. Moving on to verse 24. Once they see what is awaiting them, they will find out who is really weaker in power and fewer in number. So this is on the day of judgment. The disbelievers, idol worshippers, hypocrites, all the people that will end up in hell. They'll see, how shrunken their soul is. They'll see how outnumbered they are, because they're the minority, and the messenger talks about this, so the development, if you have one soul on the day of judgment that is extremely well nourished, and then you have a million souls that are shrunken to the size of ants or even smaller, you see who's greater number, who has the greater number, and that's that single soul, that has developed itself. So on Earth, it can be sometimes, it can appear as something else, like, oh, these people are a greater number, but that's not the case. Because I mean, even if we look at it from this point as well, that God and his angels outnumber the rebel humans, and rebel jinn devils far outnumber, so I mean, even right now, you have angels. I mean, they God's army, and they outnumber the disobedient humans, So they're always outnumbered, despite what they appear to be, or all their power they try to muster. They're not the ones who are greater in number. They're fewer in number, and that's And then we also see the footnote. Let's see. Footnote. Okay, verse 25. Say, I do not know if what is promised to you will happen soon, or if my Lord will delay it for a while. He is the knower of the future. He does not reveal the future to anyone. Only to a messenger that he chooses does he reveal from the past and the future specific news. This is to ascertain that they have delivered their Lord's message. He is fully aware of what they have. He has counted the number of all things. So we see from the footnote in Surah 72, verse 1 through 28, it tells us how God also revealed the end of the world to his messenger. When we see, you can look, more into that and examine that in Appendix 25. And so, looking at these verses, we know that only God can be the knower of the future. Only He knows this, And so, if a messenger reveals something about the past or future, it's only because God gave it to him to tell us, And it's by God's mercy and His forgiveness to us that we are enlightened and told, about such things, so we can better prepare for, and also, increase our faith, And I mean, even no matter how hard, you see humans and these scientists, or these real rich um, oligarchs, or you read about some of these globalists that try so hard to predict the future, or build these advanced machines, to try to travel through time, or they can't, they as hard as they try, or they even, I mean, they even write books or hypotheticals, and they have, billions of dollars of funds into these projects, about dealing with this stuff. They can't, they can't tell the future. They can't time travel. Only God, can do such things, and because He's in control of all this stuff. In the footnote, it tells us that in these verses, that the end of the world was specifically given to God's messenger by means of the miracle of 19. So this is very serious news that God lets us know that we're in the final hour, or the messenger put it, the last hour. That's where we are. And the most recent prophecy we received, or great sign, was the splitting of the moon. Okay, Surah 73, cloaked in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. O you cloaked one, meditate during the night, except rarely, half of it or a little less, or a little more, and read the Quran from cover to cover. We will give you a heavy message. So, Surah 73 was the third surah given to Muhammad. And, it tells, we see in verse 5 about the message that Muhammad is receiving, putting to his, I believe it's his chest or his soul, I think, by the, it's put into Muhammad by the angel Gabriel, given to him from God to tell the world, he's going to deliver this message to the world. And, it tells us, it also tells us to meditate at night. And if we see, the next verse, it says the meditation at night is more effective and more righteous. You have a lot of time during the day for other matters. So we're told in the Quran that meditation at night is different, being that it's more effective. And I guess, if you look at it, the night, it sort of acts as a cover and, maybe a type of refuge to settle down, from a day full of busy worldly things. People are out and just doing this and that. And, when nighttime comes, it's kind of like a place of where, things calm down and you're able to focus better. And the things of the world aren't hitting us from left and right. They're not in our midst. And of course, even the people of the world are, most of them are in their homes, winding down and asleep. So meditation at night, it's more righteous during the day. And he tells us that we have a lot of time during the day to do for other matters, and like pursuing provisions for God, and doing things we need to be doing. And also this verse kind of made me think that God, chose that it was the night of destiny and not the day of destiny. So this maybe could, kind of hint on and tells us the value of nighttime worship and meditation on God. Verse 8: You shall commemorate the name of your Lord to come ever closer and closer to Him. Lord of the East and the West, there is no other God beside Him. You should choose Him as your advocate. So we're told, we shall honor God's name, and draw ever closer and closer to Him. So this is something that it's important to do every day, is to continually praise Him, draw close to Him, through like even outside of the contact prayers and stuff. We could, as a messenger put it, we can have snacks for our soul, before starting our car, or before eating or drinking. We can say Bismillah. I mean, before eating or drinking, it's a commandment. So we're commanded to do that. But for other things, you see something you admire, say mashallah. And I've kind of noticed that stuff like this, and it really helps to draw closer to God every day, and reminds us of God. So to make sure He's our God 100% of the day, or more, the majority of the day, as much as possible. And it also says we should choose Him as our advocate. So He's the best advocate to have. I mean, what better advocate or friend could you want than the Lord of the universe? You could go to Him with anything. You could, having Him in your side to protect you and help you and guide you and to forgive you and to inform you or help, improve you. That's the best advocate you could have. The best. So this is why it says we should choose Him as our advocate. And only God. You know, verse 10, and remain steadfast in the face of their utterances, and disregard them in a nice manner. And let me deal with the rejectors who have been generously blessed. Just give them a little time. We have severe punishments and hell, food that can hardly be swallowed, and painful retribution. So, looking at these verses, we're told that there's going to be opposition and attacks against the messengers, as well as the believers. And God tells us, we are to remain steadfast against these attacks and ignore them, in a nice possible manner, for disregard them, pay no attention to what they utter, because if I feel like if we, give too much attention to, let's say, hypocrites or people, wherever you may find them online I mean, even if you know one and possibly know one in person, or it could be a family member, if it tells us to disregard them, in a nice manner, meaning it doesn't tell us to sit there and continually argue with them, because I mean, I've even found, like you could try to help these people, but there comes a certain point where you just have to let it go and kindly, disassociate, yourself with them, because I think it ends up hurting. It could, in a way, poison, you, because that's ultimately, what what we don't want to happen to us, because God will deal with these people, and in verse 11 it says God's going to deal with the rejectors, and I mean, the rejectors are wherever you find them, these he tells us what's going to happen to them, says we have severe punishments and hell, so God and his angels, by saying we, they're gonna carry out, these people's punishment. They're gonna see to it, with dealing with them. So we don't, as far as much as sometimes people might feel, oh, you got to hold this person responsible for this or that, or we can rest assured that God will deal with these people. And I mean, we see a description of this, which is the mind can only fathom, to a certain degree, and I mean, of how terrible it's going to be. Even if we, even maybe if we expand our imagination to like the worst possible thing, like it's still probably not doesn't compare to what it actually feels like or what it could be like, But I mean, this is sufficient enough, for should be for anybody that it tells you, I mean, you can look at this and compare it to this life, and just think of the worst, or painful punishments in this life, and then you look at this and you realize, man, this, the hereafter is forever, and it's going to be much more severe, So it should be a good, um, So I mean, if nothing else, I mean, even for these people, the rejectors, as God said, if you never know if they read one of this verse, it could be the thing that could maybe change their mind, or maybe have them think a little more, like, oh man, this is not something that you want to go to. But we see that most of the time, no matter how much you warn them, or what you invite them to do, they usually, they tend to still reject it, despite the proofs you could present, or arguments in favor of the truth. So the next verse says, "The day will come when the earth and the mountains will quake, and the mountains will be turned into a weightless pile." So when the day of judgment happens, God's physical presence, as we're told, and by the messenger, it'll draw near to our universe. The Quran, this is in the Quran. This is, we see a lot of surahs, especially like in the later parts of the Quran, the overwhelming, the shocker, the rupture. These surahs and verses are amazing because they tell us what's they'll tell you they're basically telling us the future. So like people in this world, I kind of pose this question. People are so interested about, oh, no, in the future, or what's going to happen, or what's going to happen to me in 10 years, or where I'm like, I said, the one thing you can actually, if you really want to truly know the future, I said the Quran is the thing to read because the Quran will tell you what's coming. Like if you're so interested in trying to figure out the future, we'll just take a look at the Quran, God's message to the world, and you will most assuredly know, you will have an insight into the future, because we're told, we know this is going to happen, like we have no doubt about this in our hearts, and these verses, inspire reverence, and it's really amazing to think about, like you really think about this is stuff that we will witness one day. Myself, everyone in this study, everyone listening, everyone on earth, we're all going to see this one day. This will definitely come to pass. So, you know, this is, something to be mindful about, inshallah. Verse 15, "We have sent to you a messenger, just as we sent to Pharaoh a messenger. Pharaoh disobeyed the messenger, and consequently, we punished him severely." So, God's merciful enough to send us messengers in the first place. And yet, people are so ungrateful, for these messengers that come to them with great wisdom. It's been a detrimental, and really tragic pattern, that we've seen, all laid out through the Quran, with like the brother of Saleh, people of Hud, Ad, or the brother Hud and brother Saleh went to Ad and Thamud. We see Pharaoh and his messenger. We see Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah. We see Abraham and his people. We see, how Jesus was rejected. Even the messenger of the covenant, he was sent. God sent to us. Sent to this generation and every subsequent generation. That will come after us. Because being that the time and age we live in, people can continually witness this. Continually witness this miracle, and this is what makes it so amazing and profound. Because the generations to come, 50 to 100 years from now, as the end of the world nears, they will be able to still witness what we are witnessing. And we see this isn't the case with like Moses and Pharaoh, because in a way, indirectly, or we know that we aren't an eyewitness of what happened, at Moses and Pharaoh, but we 100% know what actually happened because of this miracle, and that's what makes it so amazing. So we're seeing here that people get consequences. We see the consequence for disobeying the messenger and what he invites us to do. Because ultimately, God is chose him, and he gives us great wisdom and purifies our religion, helps us, and yet so many people, a lot of people, when they're invited to the path of submission, they turn arrogant, or they would choose to reject it, or they're just, for whatever reason, a multitude of reasons, they could still prefer this worldly life over the hereafter. It's really a unfortunate case because we know what's going to happen to them. They're going to be wiped out, annihilated, destroyed. In this life and the hereafter. It's verse 17. If you disbelieve, how can you evade a day so terrible that it makes the infants gray haired? The heaven will shatter therefrom. His promise is true. This is a reminder. Whoever wills, let him choose the path to his Lord. So, the disbelievers on that day won't have anywhere to run or hide. As much as we can imagine, and I mean they themselves they'll want to evade it, but they won't be able to. And it's a day that's so severe. I mean, if we look at the verse, what it tells us, it makes the infant's hair turn gray. It's so severe that infants, I guess, will be shocked to the point themselves to the point of having gray hair. It's a very heavy day. We even see the heaven and the stars, and the entire structure will collapse. And think about. We think about how large these stars and galaxy systems are, and how much energy and power that's stored in them. Some of these stars are hundreds, thousands times bigger than our sun. You just think about the amount of nuclear fusion energy and just the energy from supernovas, and how many supernovas there are, or these black holes. The amount of gravitational pull they have. Just like doing this from this perspective, could kind of help give one an idea of like how immense God's energy will be, and how overwhelming His presence is, and why these things will happen. So this is a day that's definitely to prepare for. And whoever wills, it says, let him choose the path to his Lord. So it tells us, whoever wants to be guided, whoever wills to be guided, God will see, if they're sincere and they really want to do it for God, and help themselves, and humble themselves, and God will show them, His proofs. He'll instill reverence, and augment their submission. Verse 20, your Lord knows that you meditate during 2/3 of the night, or half of it, or 1/3 of it, and so do some of those who believe with you. God has designed the night and the day, and He knows that you cannot always do this. He has pardoned you. Instead, you shall read what you can of the Quran. He knows that some of you may be ill, others may be traveling in pursuit of God's provisions, and others may be striving in the cause of God. You shall read what you can of it, and observe the contact prayer Salah, give the obligatory charity Zakah, and lend God alone in righteousness. Whatever good you send ahead on behalf of your souls, you will find it at God far better and generously rewarded. And implore God for forgiveness. God is forgiver, most merciful. So looking at this verse, God sees how much we meditate, and He has designed the night different from the day. And also He tells us, by His mercy, He's pardoned us. He knows the limits of the human beings, and He takes into account situations where one may be sick or traveling. Others could be pursuing God's provisions or striving in His cause. So we're also told we should read the Quran as much as possible. This is for our own good. God doesn't need us to read the Quran, or we honestly we really need it. We need God. We need to worship Him to grow our souls and to be redeemed, inshallah. And God doesn't need this. This is all He gives us to us, and it's really a gift. Even there's a verse in the Quran that says, we send down this book, as a healing and mercy, for the people, and it truly is a book that provides healing and mercy, for the submitters. And, and it also, whatever we send ahead on behalf of your souls, we'll find that God far better and generously rewarded. And right before that, it says, lend God alone of righteousness. So, this is our one shot. This life is our one shot to get it right, and that's, doing our salah, our zakah, and the righteous works. And loan of righteousness, meaning that, we basically we lead a righteous life. We give God, in a sense, a loan of our righteous deeds. We do them. We live a righteous life. We do as what was asked for us, and He'll multiply this loan for us. He'll give us a great reward, for our works. And this is really the best loan. This is the best investment that we can do for ourselves, is leading the righteous life. Belief in God and the hereafter. Worshiping God alone. So moving on to Surah 74, the hidden secret. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. O you hidden secret, come out and warn, extol your Lord, purify your garment. So looking at this, we see, I'll read the footnote in just a minute, but looking at verse 1, we see that the hidden secret, it also explained in the footnote, the hidden secret refers to the Quran's 19-based mathematical miracle. And this is not a coincidence. It's this miracle is divinely given, guided and orchestrated by the Lord of the universe. This is not just something to be taken lightly. So looking at the footnote for verse 1 of Surah 74, it says, God's infinite wisdom willed to reveal the Quran through Muhammad, while the Quran's awesome 19-based mathematical miracle was revealed through God's messenger of the covenant, 1406 lunar years after the revelation of the Quran, which we see that's a multiple of 19. 1406 equals 19 times 74. And even if you look, 1974 AD was the solar year of the discovery. So, I mean, just looking at this, like just this alone, and then, you could, like, there's no way this is coincidence, there, because so many things had to go right. This could have easily happened 1407 years or 1405 years after, but it didn't. It happened 1406, and these things, like, they're falling in line so perfectly, and there's so many of them. We see how many, like, this is just one proof for us, like one proof out of, probably hundreds or thousands to be witnessed about this miracle. And if this alone should be enough, like, for if somebody, maybe if it wasn't enough for this person, just this, looking at this alone, like, if we didn't really have anything else, maybe other than, like, the 19-based miracle confirming the contact prayers and removing the verses. This is like amazing, because this isn't by accident. This is definitely carried out and orchestrated by Lord of the heavens and the earth. And it's really a blessing, because you look at this, and it just strengthens you. It acts as a good reminder, and re-solidifies, like, what you're following, what you're believing in, and it really helps you so much. That's what it does for me. So moving on, finishing the footnote, we see it says, in retrospect, we realize that the whole surah refers to the Quran's 19-based miracle, and you can explore that more in appendices 1 and 2. And since we also read verse 4, purify your garment, we'll go ahead and read the footnote. So footnote for verse 4 says, the Quran is the garment containing the secret code. This refers to removing verses 128 through 129 from Surah 9 ultimatum. So this, and we also, we know that this is one of the main duties of the messenger of the covenant. And, if we look at this verse, you know, the Quran, I mean, the verses 1 through 4 we just read, the Quran and its miracle of 19, this acts as a warning to the world. It comes, it comes with a great sign. This is the greatest miracle. Because it's a type of miracle. I forget. I heard someone say it, but it's extremely, like, it's impossible to replicate, right? It's impossible to reproduce or replicate or ever do something like this, right? But it's easy to understand. Like, who else could make something like that? Because I mean, even if you take the most complex mathematical equations from like trigonometry or algebra or whatever, like, it doesn't fall into that category. Because I mean, you look at, okay, that could be hard to write this formula or equation, but you couldn't you really, if you didn't know how to write it or create that formula, or you wouldn't be able to understand it. But this is so intricately designed and made and integrated, by God, this miracle of 19, that it's impossible to do something like this, right? To create something like this. Yet it's easy for the human being to understand. It's obvious. Like, for those who have eyes to see. And verse 4, it tells us that the Quran is to be purified by the secret code of 19, by removing the two false verses in Surah 9. So, we now have the true purified Quran, and we know what it is. And this is this is like a blessing for us. That we have such a thing. So it's telling us in verse 4. This is what 19. Served as the miracle of 19. It's among so many of the integrated signs, and be able to witness this miracle at any time in multiple places. It cleans, it purifies the Quran, by God's, through the means of God's messenger, the covenant, as Dr. Rashad Khalifa. This was given to him. Verse 5: forsake what is wrong, be content with your lot, steadfastly commemorate your Lord. So forsaking what is wrong is something we should do, that's prohibiting evil. And we see by the miracle of 19, God's messenger, all idolatry is forsaken, this idolatry of powerless idols, Muhammad or Jesus, that's forsaken, that's wrong, that's idolatry. That's basically, it falls under the category of, I guess, it falls under the category of evil works, despite, people may innocently, oh, nothing's wrong with calling on this saint or this, or this idol, and I mean, especially like now, the past, Friday, and this, is the holiday, Easter, people, I mean, they have movies right now that are, like, in the theater. I just saw a post on Facebook. Somebody went to see the new movie Jesus Revolution. Common sense would even tell you, like, even if you follow the Bible alone, and like you weren't able to be like see the miracle of 19 or in this Quran. I mean, even the Bible alone tells you in the end times. I mean, in multiple parts of the Bible, especially stuff I grew up, you're told, and that most people, Jesus even said, many more will be lost and saved. Many will seek to enter, but few will. Many people will take the wide, and open path to hell instead of the narrow, straight path back to God and to heaven. It gives the parables of the wheats and the tares. The wheats are the true, believers, and the tares look like wheats. Like in real life, these tares, they appear as wheats. You look at them, but upon further examination, these tares are examine and then to distinguish between from the weeds, and they're stripped up from the ground and they're burned, and these are parables, I mean, he gives. And I mean, just by like listening to him, or like stuff that's in the previous scripture, if you weren't able to I mean, even like these people that haven't been introduced yet, or don't believe that, just look and taking their own previous, scripture that they're given, common sense would tell them, that they're following the majority of what people believe. So something has got to be wrong with their religion, like something that they're following. Because everybody, I mean, basically, you can't find a idol worshiping Christian. They're out there, I believe, but they could be far and few between. So common sense will tell them that what they're doing is wrong. And I mean, these mainstream messages and narratives that are being spread. I mean, they're making movies about this stuff, which, I mean, I guess, if you're trying to spread like a legitimate good message, nothing's wrong with that. That's actually awesome. But if you're just adding to your evil works, and inviting more people to obey idolatry, and set up idols, and do all this, you know, um, do all these bad things. It's not good. It's not good for the people that are doing it, or people that are causing it. So it says, be content with your lot, so be content with this Quran and its miracle. Don't uphold old religious doctrine or idols, or these laws. So anything, if we don't find it in the Quran, we don't listen to it. We don't, only listen to God. And this miracle of 19, this what this whole surah is about. It's such it should really be such a relief to it's really, like, to me, it's such a sigh of relief, because it's like, at the regardless of all things, what one may have been taught growing up, or old scriptures or books, we know we can always rest on the Quran. We know we can always rest assured, know that we have the truth because of this miracle. And anything that argues with it, any deviations or religious laws that aren't found in it, people are just inventing. I mean, even if it may be like, if it's something that you could have seen in the Bible, right? These religious teachings to do this and that, we don't pay attention to it, because really, if God, if he had a commandment for us, let's say, to do this and this, like, for example, circumcision, you think God would have included it in the Quran, right? It would be in there, but no, it's not. It's nowhere mentioned in there. So I mean, why are people still doing this stuff? Why are people? And we learn that people, they follow the majority. They follow what other people are doing. Or it's like Jesus said, it's the blind leading the blind into the ditch. And it's a parable for, people who are blind, not literally in this life, but blind. Their hearts are blind, their minds, their souls are blind. They lead each other into the ditch, and the ditch he meant was hell. And they do this for it's really an unfortunate case, because, I mean, if you really if you're really content with what you have, you wouldn't seek other sources. You wouldn't seek hadiths or sayings, let's say, like the you know modern Muslim world is today is doing. You would be content. So verse 7, moving on from that. We're told to honor God all the time, and constantly commemorate his name, constantly glorify him. Verse 8, then when the horn is blown, that will be a difficult day for the disbelievers, not easy. So the rejectors of this purified Quran, the ones who oppose this, the ones who argue with this proof, the disbelievers, it says that they're going to have an extremely difficult day. I mean, just imagine the hardest day you've ever had on earth, right? Like, let's say just the hardest day you might have had at work, or a day, and let's say, I mean, even prior to submission, or I mean, even a day that you witnessed that was hard for somebody else, like they got in a terrible accident, or they lost something. I mean, imagine the hardest day on earth for yourself or anybody. Multiply that times 10 million. I mean, even more than that. So I mean, even more than that. So it's an extremely difficult day. For the disbelievers, it's not going to be easy. It's not pleasant to be in. Like, you have a hard day in this world. You witness somebody having a hard day. You're like, oh man, I'm great. I'm thankful. Even vicariously thinking or putting yourself in that person's shoes or looking at that person. I mean, that difficult day for such person is nothing compared to what's the disbelievers, people who will lose their souls. It's nothing compared to what they're going to face. And so, looking at the verse 11, it says, "Let me deal with the one I created as an individual. I provided him with lots of money and children to behold. I made everything easy for him. Yet he is greedy for more. He stubbornly refused to accept these proofs. I will increasingly punish him." So, despite how easy God has made their lives, they still reject and are stubborn and greedy. They're too arrogant to accept God's proof, the messenger, or 19 based miracle. And even if they claim to accept it, right? But if they reject parts of it, right? Or they can't, they have a problem with the messenger or certain parts of it. They're not acceptors. Right? These people are actually rejectors. They act like they're accepting, but they're still rejecting. If you reject any part of the message that he's come with, you're a full on rejecter. Now, God willing, if this maybe there could be help for these people. Only God knows. But I think I might be getting short on time, so I'll try to speed things up a little bit, God willing. Verse 18, for he reflected and decided, miserable indeed. Miserable is what he decided. Miserable indeed is what he decided. He looked, he frowned and whined, then he turned away arrogantly. He said, "This is but clever magic. This is human made. I will commit him to retribution." What retribution? Thorough and comprehensive, obvious to all the people. So, looking at these verses, no matter what you could present to people, they still could not believe. And it's such as a miserable fate. I mean, even if you cause the Quran to move a mountain, right? They'll say, "This is magic," or "You deceived their eyes," or "You bewitched our eyes." So it's like, why do they decide this? Why do they decide this? Well, the verse 23 says, he turned away arrogantly. So you can see arrogance caused him to turn away, and the messenger's definition of that relates to arrogance. He gave the definition of the ego, and that's arrogance augmented or increased by ignorance. And this is so important. Why we must kill our ego, or else it prevents us from seeing these proofs, accepting them and submitting to God. So and that's why we also know that's why we're here, because of our egos. And last four verses, we see a thorough and comprehensive retribution is promised to the rejectors. It will be obvious to everyone. Everyone will see the soul, development of each person, and thus be able to witness each other's fate. So nothing. There's even another part of the Quran that says nothing will be hidden on that day. From anybody, the skins, the eyes, the hands, everything is going to be bearing witness. I guess either for against you, or for you, even your companions. So, it's the retribution is going to be obvious. Everyone's going to see everyone. They're going to just based on the development of the soul and the growth, they're going to be able to know where their fate, where their destiny is. And we are fortunate enough, to have witnessed and accepted this 19 base proof, and so. This is a great responsibility, as well as a privilege, that, we must remain steadfast and devoted to God, and really do our best to spread the message, and devote, continually devote ourselves to God alone. And I think I'll conclude this study. If there are any comments or questions, please feel free.
So thank you, brother.
MashaAllah,
MashaAllah,
great study,
brother.
brother.
MashaAllah, brother. God bless you.
MashaAllah, thank you.
Yeah, well, so we went for an hour instead of 40 minutes.
Yeah, I kind of started noticing. I felt I was going over.
Mhm.
Maybe I should I tried doing that extra half page, I guess.
Mhm. What I normally do is I time myself. I look at the clock from when I start, so I can pace myself, and I do like look at the 20-minute mark, and to make sure I have one page done, and then I move on. But mashallah, time flies when you're reading the Quran, mashallah. Praise God. Yeah, so much material to cover, and praise be to God. It's amazing. As I mean, God shows how God is doing everything. Because like as I was listening to the study, I was actually writing some code for the app, and I decided to create a function called test. And as soon as I wrote test, you mentioned that God will test us, and then after that, there was something. I was opening an audio, and it was from the 19th of November. And just as I clicked on it, you said over it is 19. Subhanallah. It was from the 19th. The study was from the 19th of November. It's like the 19th, only 19th of a month, which is a multiple of 19, right? So only date in the whole 365-day calendar that is also a multiple of 19 as far as the number of days. So subhanallah, I mean, just God shows us all these 19 based signs to us every day.
MashaAllah, brother. That's amazing. Yeah, he's even yes, the little stuff like that. I love hearing that, and I love when it happens to me too. Because it for me, it reminds us, that God is doing everything. He helps us. Sometimes it like for me, it lets me know that he's kind of like the zikr that I think the messenger gave, that he's here in this room, watching everything we do. He's with us.
Mhm.
Praise be to God.
So, so wait, you said so we finished at 72 we started at 72:15.
Yes, brother. Yes, verse Surah 72, verse 15. That's where we
Okay.
began.
I'm a little confused. So how did that happen? Because we always read 2 pages.
Right. So, I think brother Salami on the Tuesday study, I think that's where he stopped. He
Okay,
stopped at
so
verse 14. You know.
okay, stop to verse 14. So all right. So we started at 15. Okay, 22. Okay. And so you ended at 74 29.
29. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
normally, I apologize. I normally, like the last studies, like the former studies I did, I would actually set my other phone, I would set a timer and I would
No, no,
glance
I
at it
see
occasionally.
habits.
You know. But yeah, today I forgot to do that.
Um, okay. Yeah, thanks for finishing up the 2 pages, full pages. It helps everybody remember.
MashaAllah.
Read from yeah.
MashaAllah.
For mhm. Okay, so I wanted to comment on verse number 10. We talked about um, remaining steadfast in the face of their utterances and disregard them in a nice manner, right? And and so I guess what I want to say about that is that there are times when people are attacking that we have to respond, right? But there would be other times when it just doesn't make any sense. Let's say there is a disbeliever that is arguing with you, and you know that no matter what you say at this point, this person's not going to believe. Let's say in an isolated incident, right, with you and another person. But let's say you're on a public in a public setting, either in a debate or in a written communication that is being witnessed by other people, which happens a lot over social media or like in a public debate or something. And you hear, and you hear people say things like attacking the religion, like saying that there are, like, let's say like someone comes up and says that things about the message, that this message is flawed and all this stuff, right? And so in those situations, like, it becomes necessary, I believe, right, that you have to address that. And it also becomes I mean, of course, and there is ways to, like, objectively, like, if they are actually just debating with you, and there's a logical debate going on, and you want to address certain points, you address those points and you debate in the nicest possible manner. And the thing is, God says, unless they transgress, right? So if you see people just badgering and attacking and this kind of stuff, then no longer, you don't have to be nice to such people at that point. So that's just, I wanted to say. But then other times, like, there could be people that would be hypocrites, and for a fact that uh, no matter what you say to these people, they can never ever be guided at this point. Like, it's just a lost cause, in other words, right? So at that point, you just you don't have any choice but to just ignore that person, right? And so that's how I understand it. Because I've also seen that um, sometimes people will get confused by certain verses, or maybe there have been people that will try to create confusion and try to use verses to say that no matter what happens, you just let the disbelievers say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and if they attack you, for example, you turn the other cheek and stuff like that, right? But we understand from the Quran that God doesn't want the believers to be like that. God wants the believers to be stern, and they want and if the believers are attacked, they fight back. If it's not a physical fight, obviously whatever they need to do, whatever is appropriate way to fight back, they do, fight back. They don't just let them get attacked left and right and not do anything. So that's what I wanted to share regarding that. And so yeah, so I mean, so in that case, then obviously, these verses make complete sense. Like God says, let me deal with these rejectors, right? So obviously, this person, whoever that would be destined for hell. So no matter what you say to them, they will still insist on disbelieving. So you leave them alone, and then let God deal with such people. And as God says, they will suffer their due share on the day of judgment, for and for eternity, for everything that they did. And as God gives us the example of Pharaoh and also.
MashaAllah, there is actually a verse that I wanted to comment on, verse 16, that actually we have the word water for jinns. So that's my understanding is that that's allegorical for the actually fact that humans have been created from mud and jinns have been created from fire. So water would be obviously something to, as an allegorical description of something that would be a reward for them, right?
Sorry, which verse are you talking about?
Verse 16, Surah 72.
Oh, 72, verse 16. 72,
Yes.
verse 16.
The one that we read today,
if
yes.
I mean, on the right path, we will bless them with abundant water.
Yeah. That's my understanding, is that like that's more like allegorical for the fact that they are made of fire, and then it's a reward for them, probably to cool them down or something.
Well, maybe, I mean, they're just completely entirely different creatures. So
Yes.
Yes,
that's my understanding. Yeah, that's that, and they have their own specific heaven, right? Higher heaven and lower heaven. So for them, actually, it's different. However, the situation is completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's talking about the hereafter, you can say it's allegorical. So the compromisers will be filled for Gehenna, and then and for the ones that are on the right path, we will bless them with abundant water. Maybe.
And I also wanted to comment on verse 27 that God says, only to a messenger that he chooses does he reveal from the past and the future specific information, if I'm not mistaken. Specific news, yes. And what I wanted to say is that, so I just paid attention to it today, that so we were when I was reading this verse, I was only thinking about the things that were actually told to the messenger of covenant, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, that, for example, like the end of the world. But also there are many information that actually have been cleared for us from the past. For example, that 2 verses were added to Quran, and then why certain things happened, like, for example, why Hussein was martyred, why Ali was martyred, that Muhammad was literate, and he wrote Quran with his own hand, and then why actually what really happened to Jesus, and the fact that God did not order Abraham to kill his son Ishmael, and then what the ark of Noah really looked like, and things like that. So that really helps a lot for us, because we have been like born and raised with these stuff, and we have had like wrong information from childhood. And when we have the correct information by the will of God through His messenger, then it's a relief, because you certainly know that this is the correct information, and the rest of the information which is out there is wrong, and this is the only version of the truth, and that solves all the problems. That's why you're not like confused anymore about any matter. Subhanallah. Also, as you see on the TV these days, that the Friday before Easter, actually they have something called Good Friday. I mean, Brother John can correct me if I'm wrong, and they're like commemorating the crucifixion of Jesus, and then they are like having it like a sort of a ceremony in different parts, in different countries, especially in Jerusalem. They have that. They put the cross on their shoulders, and that reminds me of the same thing happening for Hussein. For Ashura, people put alam, like a big thing on their shoulders, and then carrying it, to commemorate the martyrdom of Hussein, and so on and so forth. So you see, like how people are just like wasting their time. Worse, they're actually idolizing these people, and they have forsaken God, and they are just like wasting their time and their energy and their resources for idolizing these people, and they're actually committing a horrendous crime.
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah, I saw last night. Like it's someone made a post or something about Good Friday. And it said I was just looking at it. It was like, man, how can people like really believe this? Like they're so duped. But it said basically, he suffered so terribly for me, and it had, I think, another little saying, just a short saying. I mean, they shared this little post, and I mean, you go to the origin of the post and you see it's some big pastor that just shared this, that they're sharing, and with like tens of thousands of followers. And I mean, like, I asked myself, man, is this really what people want to believe? Like, do people really, like, I guess they love their lies, because no one honestly can believe, like, because that makes no sense. Like, even the logic, like, even all else things discarded, how much sense does it make for, like, if I were to commit a crime, and I need to be punished for it, like in this world, right? Why should my neighbor or just pick some random person from the grocery store? Why should they be punished for something I did? And I guess this exposes like these people. They don't want to be held accountable, maybe because they don't believe in it, or they're just misled by wishful. I find like a lot of it just from where I'm from and what I've dealt with. A lot of it is following the crowd and wishful thinking. Wishful thinking is something I've noticed, because it's easy to wishful think, like, I mean, even at one point, you could say I almost, like, long time ago, I almost fell into that, but I guess me as a person, I'd rather be showed the truth, even if it's, less favorable to the human being. It's still so much better to see that truth, like you can say. So for these people's examples, yeah, it's the actual truth of accountability and stuff, and what God, leading the righteous life. That's too much for these some of these people. They'd rather just be deluded by worldly things. It's easier for him or her, you know. So they cheat their own souls, you know. And I mean, and then Sunday is supposed to be Easter, you know, the resurrection, and I mean, even like even Easter itself is a pagan holiday as well as Christmas. You know, I mean, even Christmas itself it represents, you know, it's not even the actual birth of Jesus. I mean, if you explore the old Gnostic text, you know, you'll find I think he was most likely born in September. I mean, even something like that, it's not significant because I mean, this is just a human being. You know, we shouldn't, you know, look into too much like, oh, when this person was born. I mean, unless it has a point. You know, but I mean, even Easter that's coming up. I mean, you see all these people come out the woodworks just going to this movie in the theater or spreading this and it's just a bunch of idolatry, you know.
So the same goes for the Shia people. You know, when they are actually commemorating the martyrdom of Hussein on the day of Ashura, you know, in Karbala in Iraq. Actually, they are asking for intercession from Hussein. You know, that's what they are doing. And all these people that right now are just commemorating, you know, Good Friday and Jesus, you know, so to a certain extent, they think that Jesus is God, but there are some sects in Christianity that they think that, okay, Jesus is Son of God. Some of them think that Jesus is God, but I don't think that there is any sect that just think that, you know, Jesus was only a person, was only the prophet of God. And I think that's the basic doctrine of Christianity, the Trinity. And so that in itself is just like blasphemous enough, you know, that, and it doesn't make sense, you know, why would God be three person, you know? And that's the doctrine, you know. Once I talked uh, uh, to a Catholic that he was explaining it to me, and he was saying that this is like three persons in one God, and I said that it doesn't make sense. Why would that be, you know? If there are three gods or three persons in one God, then what if they get into a conflict, you know? And we have the verse in Quran, subhanallah, you know, that if there are like more than one God, you know, then what if they have like a conflict about um something that they don't like about you know, each other. For example, one God wants the gravity to work in one way, and one God wants the gravity to work in another way. Then what? You know, then there would be a conflict, and nothing would work uh, in the universe. So basically, this is blasphemous enough, and unfortunately, I mean, those people who are just like so prejudiced about these stuff, both in, I mean, Shia and in Christianity, they're just like completely ignorant, and they're just following the hearsay. They even like, if you tell them to just write one page about what they believe, they can't do that. You know, they don't know what they believe. They just think that they believe something, but they don't believe anything. They're just following the hearsay, like the crowd, what the crowd is doing, and then they're following it. That's what it is.
Yeah, the thing is, there used to be sects in Christianity that believed that Jesus wasn't God, you know. But over the course of time, as you know, today's Christianity, you know, grew. You know, those people were like banned and persecuted, and slowly, you know, started disappearing. So Yeah, but the thing is that, among people who still identify as Christians, we know that, there may be submitters among them, that do not believe in that do not believe in all of these theological concepts. And as we know, as time goes on and people become more and more informed, like all these things about like the Nicene Conference, about the origin of Christmas, and all these things are becoming more and more, common knowledge for people, including Christians. And I mean, the information that that has been passed around by the Christian scholars, is now like mainstream pretty much, but still you see people are not willing to give up their old tradition and not abandon their parents' religion. Even Christians who don't believe in Christmas, will still celebrate it, and Easter and all this stuff. So, but we understand that the Quran's 19-based miracle, as we read today in the surah, the hidden secret, is going to dominate, very soon. And so I guess, with the amount of information that has been, flowing on the internet, and among these different and all the different, I guess, debates that continue to happen, and the way that I think Quran is slowly, becoming more and more acceptable in the Western society. Also, the United States is, the heart of Islam, right? And so it's very important for when submission prevails that, this is the place from where, it flows, through all parts of the globe. And so it's very important for it's sorry, I thought my computer died. So it's very important for the screen just went to sleep. So it's very important for lost my trail of thought. Yeah, so it's very important for people to accept the Quran as a book. I mean, if you look like maybe 30, 40 years ago, a lot of people didn't even know, like if you talked about the Quran, a lot of people would not even have an idea like what the Quran is, right? But now we know automatically, like everybody know what a Quran is. In fact, like even if you talk about Ramadan, everybody, like most people will know what Ramadan is. Like they'll have some idea, right? But like if you went back like 40, 50 years ago, nobody would know this type of information. So things are becoming more and more acceptable. But definitely with the Quran's mathematical code, we know that this is something that is destined for submission to prevail in our times. So people are, that's why we see more and more people are becoming alienated by the nonsense that they find in these religions, and they're just completely, many people obviously become atheists, but the thing is, a lot of people will continue on their journey to seek the truth, and eventually will come across the truth. And we have the tools, and information is accessible to us, and with the Quran's 19-based miracle, it's only a matter of time that, God willing, submission will prevail.
Yes, mashallah. At work, I deal with the younger generation, and I see like I saw a young woman who was, raised in, a Christian family, and she was like divinely, guided in a way that she was so interested in knowing the truth about Islam, and it was like, I don't want to make her specific. Like maybe she's listening to us. I don't know, but the thing is that like it was so miraculous the way I got to know her, and I was able to give her the version, the English version, and how much she was interested. And the thing is that you see that the younger generation, as they break, and they leave the nest and they become independent, they start seeking the truth, when they are with their parents, they are more limited. And but I see the younger generation, deep down in their and they can tell that Jesus is not the Son of God, is not God, and they can feel the truth. I can see it in their eyes, but they don't know what to seek. They don't know where to go. And inshallah, when God guides people, they will find the English version of Quran, the Final Testament, and their life changes and everything changes. I see that people, there are so many good souls out there that are not willing to follow their parents' path, and they want to know the truth. Mashallah.
Sure. Yeah, as a messenger of the covenant, he says this is a rebellious generation. They're not exactly just following everything from the parents. People are looking for their own paths as well. Many people, not all of them, though. But yeah, to John's point, like, I don't understand like how people can believe all this nonsense. Like what you said about your neighbor, paying for his sin. I mean, it doesn't make any logical sense that even if your neighbor, uh, like, what when you say getting punished, right? It's different, but they don't even look at the sacrifice as a punishment. So it's just like a sacrifice. you know it's not like he's saying, okay, punish me now, but it's like a sacrifice. And so it's like, w- how does a third person's sacrifice ends up being an kind of an atonement for anybody's sin that doesn't logically make any sense. It's like, oh, it's like you committed theft. It's like, okay, I'll just take my life.
Right, mashallah. Yeah, that's so true. It's like they take it to a whole nother level. Like it'd be one thing that punishment, okay, that would maybe but yeah, sacrifice, they bring it to a whole new level of like not making any sense. And I think that was one of the biggest things with me is yeah, just seeing like the how crazy it was. And I still wonder sometimes, brother, and and everyone else in this meeting as well I'm talking to. But yeah, I still wonder sometimes, like, do these people actually really believe this? Because I sometimes I can't even tell. Like, you talk with somebody, you debate with them, and you see how erroneous it is. But I think from what I noticed, like some of these people, they it's I don't even know. It's like if I guess there's some people that just trick themselves and like they almost they don't really believe it, but they just go along because everyone else is doing it, and then there's some people that I've noticed they try to force, like they don't really believe, but they try to force themselves just into keep re-uttering like, oh, praise be to so and so, or this prophet, or amen, Lord, whatever, so and so. And they just keep, I see this on social media, I see this in person, I hear it, and it's almost like these people are just going through the motions, like they themselves don't even truly in their hearts believe it, but they're still have a trouble getting rid of it. I guess I don't know if I explained it well, or if
Yeah.
but it's just interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing like with the lies that like, as God says, fancy words, right? And so the people who don't actually believe in the hereafter will get attracted to it. But I mean, if you look at it in terms of the fact that God says this, that Satan hypnotizes his constituents, right? So if someone comes and hypnotizes you, and he can hypnotize you, make you think you're a chicken, right? And you're gonna make all kinds of chicken noises and do the motions and everything. Now, you're not really in your right mind. You will never really believe that you're a chicken, right? But the thing is, like, when you're hypnotized, right, you can get in a state of mind where you actually start believing it, right? And that's the thing that we see, like all of these lies that people come up with that don't even make any logical sense, whether it's from Christianity or from Islam or Judaism, whatever lies people have attributed against God and distorted the religion by all these all this nonsense. They're all basically hypnotized by Satan. And so when these people don't believe in the hereafter, they become Satan's subjects, and he has all the power he needs to get them to believe whatever he wants, basically, right? And so that's why we see people with just a whole range of like bizarre things, right? Like some people believe like monkeys are God, some people believe like cows are God, some people believe like they live like getting reincarnated like countless number of times. Like people believe in all kinds of nonsense, whereas in other parts of their life, they might be normal people, very logical, and will say very sensible things. you know
Right, mashallah. I really like that. Hypnotize, just thinking about that, reflecting on that. That's exactly what it appears to be. Like what I've seen, I mean, even in like a church service, I mean, people, they're jumping up and down, or I mean, you can go on YouTube and look at this stuff. But it's like, man, these people speaking in tongues. Like I had to witnessed that like
so
a year and a half ago, and it's I told this person, someone I used to work with, I said, man, how do you know a demon isn't speaking through you? Because they profess to ward off demons, or have or cast out demons in the name of so and so, but like you don't even know, these people don't even know what they're saying, and they do all these things, they live this life, they believe all these things like you were talking about. Basically, yeah, but it's because they're hypnotized. That summarizes it. That explains it. Satan hypnotizes them.
I also like how in 74:16 God says, he stubbornly refused to accept these proofs. And if you think about the mathematical code, I mean, how and think about like how the messenger preached the 19 based mathematical code, and how he continued to fight with all of these religious scholars. I mean, he fought against pretty much the entire Muslim leadership around the world, right? And he debated with them and everything, and he explained to them like all the facts and how they fought with him and everything. And just they refused, like stubbornly refused to accept, as it says, I mean, they were really stubborn, like so stubborn, like we know that, like they wouldn't even accept that Bismillah Rahman Rahim has 19 letters, and things like that. Like I don't know how many they counted, like 18, or I think they were saying. So but really, I mean, you think about how they stubbornly refuse to accept the proofs, and this is all like, when you see that, I mean, it's just the you just see everything God is saying here, and just really happening in front of your eyes. I mean, some things is so easy to understand and verify. It's not like something that like for example like an optical illusion or something, you can say, right? It's something you can touch with your hands, something you can count with your fingers and verify with the computer and calculator. And I mean, still, like, they have so they fight against it so much. It's just hard to understand, like, what's wrong with these humans, that God is inviting them to be saved. God is inviting them to the light, to the truth. I mean, we understand from experience that, like, even traditional Islam, like, if you really want to follow, I mean, it's so miserable. Your life will become so miserable. Like, for example, like, you cannot watch TV, you cannot watch movies, you cannot listen to music, you cannot enjoy certain foods, and there's so many restrictions and so many prohibitions. And here you have a miracle from God, and the truth, and God is inviting you to a simple way. Like, there's so many units and additional prayers and steps that people would have to do. Satan made the religion so difficult, and here God is inviting you to be saved by sending you the truth, and also a beautiful religion being restored back to its pristine purity, where things become so much easier for you. And people are just so unappreciative, and just yeah, I mean, just so unappreciative and stupid, that they insist on going to hell. I mean, just the very fact that, I mean, you just think about, like, with Ramadan, for example, right? I mean, first they didn't want to accept that you can use the lunar data for calculation and stuff, right? And then eventually they accepted, but they're not doing it on the day that you're supposed to start the lunar month. They'll look at the calendar and they'll exactly do it one day after that. So I mean, because they don't want to accept the truth.
And interestingly, they are going through all the, fasting and everything. So they are actually doing something, but it goes to waste. I see some people are, rebellious. They don't accept. They're very stubborn, and they think like religious duties are interfering with their lives and normal routine, and they don't want to accept it. I see their point. They just don't want to. They're so immersed in this life, and they don't want it to be, disturbed as they believe with religious duties. But on the other hand, there are these, traditional Muslims that they are doing even worse. I see a colleague of mine is wearing a scarf during Ramadan while she's fasting, and she usually doesn't wear a scarf. She doesn't have a hijab, but she thinks like it's mandatory and it's part of her religion. So she's going through even, more trouble to fast, but she's not doing it right, and she's suffering actually. So I really thank God for showing us this path, and that we are following the religion. We are not suffering. We are enjoying, and we are getting the rewards for that. Praise be to God. But you see, these two spectrums of people going in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they actually commit idol worship by following any other source beside Quran is making the religion hard on them. I mean, they're suffering because of being idol worshippers. The same goes for Shia people, that their the time of their adhan, different. First of all, the fact of the matter is that the Shias do three times. They don't do, for example, Zohr and Asr, noon and afternoon separately at their own time. They just do Zohr first, and then they do Asr followed by that one. The same goes for the sunset prayer and the night prayer. They do them also together. They go for sunset and then they go for night with no basically it's based on hadith or something. Somebody said something, and the thing is that even the time of their adhan is 5-6 minutes after the sunset. For example, for breaking the fast. So if it is like, for example, at 7:35, they do it 6-7 minutes after that. Their time of adhan is different. Like their time of sunset and time of azan are different, which is crazy. Why would you do that? God never said that. So if when they are following another source beside Quran, they are actually committing idol worship, and that's why it is making it so hard on them to do their prayers, do the fasting, and then they don't see the purpose in it. They, instead of enjoying, they're suffering, and that's what it is, because that's the religion of Satan. That's not the religion of God. And by the religion of Satan, you're suffering all the time, and that's what it is.
Yes, subhanAllah. That's why God says in the Quran, that their idols inflict great pain upon them to the extent of killing their own children, right? I mean, these people end up killing their own children. Like, for example, when a lot of these people perform circumcision, that's to that extent also. And we have examples like the Saudi, with the execution for every single time that they have. But yeah, speaking of headscarves, like it really like I can't stand looking at people in headscarves, and it's like, and I think it's really the area I'm in right now. But it's like, and also because of the fact that it's Ramadan, like everywhere I go, you see like bunch of girls like just wearing headscarves. I can't stand it. Like everywhere I look, there's like bunch of these. I don't know how to describe it. It just gives me such a weird feeling. And they think that they're so clean,
they're so righteous.
And righteous. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, to the point of seeing some police officers in northern cities of United States, like Chicago and other places, that they're like so-called Muslims, and they have headscarf with the police uniform, and that's. I mean, that's at the same time. I mean, that's freedom, that people are allowed to do anything that they want to do. They are allowed to practice their religion, and it's their religion. It's not Islam. It's Sunni, religion. They're allowed to do that. I mean, subhanAllah, this country allows people to be whatever they want to be or whoever they want to be. But it's wrong, because it's not Islam, and that gives Islam a bad name. And the same goes for countries like, for example, Iran, that you see, I mean, I paid attention to, actually, it came to my attention that in Iran, people are saying, like, for example, in military, they say Allahu Akbar, and then they bring the name of Khomeini, the previous supreme leader, and also the Khamenei, the current supreme leader. So that's also idol worship. And then they go to a greater extent of saying that Khamenei is the successor, or like basically the stewardess of the throne of Imam Zaman, the 12th Imam, which is like an imaginary character. And we know, I mean, specifically Dr. Rashad Khalifa, if I'm not mistaken, in November 1985, in Submitter's Perspective, mentioned this deal with Imam Zaman, and how actually Satan duped people into believing that Imam Zaman is a real character. And then they go to a certain extent of thinking that that's character, that Imam Zaman exists, he's going to come, he's going to save them. And then right now, at this moment, this person, Khamenei, is in his successor until he comes. And this is just like amazing how people go to what extents of like even killing themselves, giving their lives for these nonsense ideas, you know.
Mhm.
Yes. And subhanallah, I mean, this is what, and we have that verse in Quran that kullun hizbin bima ladayhi farihun. Everybody is happy with what they have, you know. Yeah, so that exactly like if you look at different parts of the world, you see that every party is happy with what they have. They're just like there, and they don't think about the fact that. But there is one thing that nobody can deny, and that's that everybody's under death sentence, and that's what people cannot deny. You know, like even you see some um, uh, people in Silicon Valley trying to reverse engineer, you know, death, and they want to make themselves immortal. As stupid as it might sound, that's true. You know, that's they're trying to find ways to stop death, stop aging of cells. So that's the other spectrum, you know, that people want to defy death. So that's really interesting when you look at how people, you know, and in the midst of all this nonsense which is going on in the world, we have the truth. I mean, we with proof we have the truth. Not that with no proof. We have like, as Brother John mentioned, 10,000, 100,000 mathematical proof, which is so simple to understand, yet impossible to imitate, that this is the exact word of God. And Dr. Rashad Khalifa was the messenger of God. So if like people can't accept that, that's their tough luck that they can't accept it. But I mean, us in actually in submission, we have felt it, how beautiful it is, how easy your life becomes, how everything just falls into it, like it's a piece of puzzle that falls into its old place with no pressure, with no, we don't even move a muscle. God is doing everything, subhanAllah. You know, the more we are on the path of God, the more we solve the remnants of our like idol worshippers. All of us were idol worshippers before we become submitters. When you see how fast everything gets solved, subhanallah, you don't know how to thank God. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off something you said about how they give Islam a bad name. You know, it's really a bad really bad what they do. You know, because like even for myself, like if I hadn't come across, you know, like the way the message of submission and the messenger was revealed, like showed to me, if I hadn't come across that, like the first thing about ever what is mentioned in the Quran or anything, I mean, there's probably a good chance, like if I would have started reading hadiths, or like afterwards I learned what hadiths were. And I mean, there was one that said if you feed a cat that's hungry a bowl of food or give it some water, you automatically get paradise. I mean, I heard this from like a mufti that was talking about this, and like if that was the first thing I heard, I would have probably completely, I mean, only God knows, you know, but like that would have turned me off. Like there's no way I can believe this. Like this doesn't make, it's the same thing, I guess. Like you think you're trading one false religion of like the idolatry of Jesus for another one, but by the grace of God, that wasn't the case. But it's really a horrendous crime. What the people who wrote the hadiths and sunnahs, because it's like there's people that maybe could be close to accepting the message. You know, there's people I've met and talked to, and it's what you said. They hear if you mention Islam or Muslim, they automatically associate you know, the hadiths or sunnahs or all these crazy innovations. They think of that or associate with that. So, and even after, you know, trying to explain this, you know, or like telling them, well, no, don't follow that. That's falsehood. You know, follow this. This is the final testament. Here's the math. You know, I guess it's been pressed upon so hard, you know, with I guess some people, you know, that it could cause them, you know, to have preconceived notions about the religion. But God willing, you know, God's message is purified Quran. That's what we know. That's what's going to triumph and attain the victory. But you know, it just made me think of, the people like who engage in that stuff. Like, if there's people that maybe don't make it, or end up rejecting like true Islam, just because of something they see on the news about people blowing each other up. I mean, these people that are doing that stuff and following these false practices, I mean, in a way, you'd almost, I guess you could say they'd be accountable, like for leading, even though they never talked, to like people on the other side of the world or in the United States. You could say, they could almost have some form of responsibility for misguiding and misleading, people who were exposed to maybe Islam, but they saw this person living or doing this crazy thing, or killing their children or doing that, and therefore they're not gonna, So maybe that verse in the Quran about, people being responsible, you know, um, or being held accountable for misleading other people. I mean, perhaps those people, that do all that erroneous stuff, they'll be held accountable.
Yeah. So what did you say? If you give cat water, you enter paradise?
Yeah. So this mufti, he there was a hadith that if there's a thirst, it wasn't food actually. It came back to me. It was water. If there's if you feed a thirsty cat, uh, give it water, God will reserve a place in Jannah for you. That's what it
Or if
said.
you give it tuna fish?
Right. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
another
right.
hadith
Like,
that
what
you
if
go
you
to
give a
hell.
tuna fish? Are you going to go to hell, like, instead of giving it water?
No, then you get multiple ranks. Up.
Oh yeah, yeah, right, right. Yeah, if you give tuna, you're gonna get even higher rank, right? Like, that makes no sense, because I mean, what if, like, you could pose a question? What if this, person, I mean, like, is a really, like, bad person, and did, and at the last minute he knew he was gonna die, and then he gave some thirsty cat water. I mean, to me that was like, man, there's no way I could ever believe
Yeah.
any of this. But luckily I knew, hadiths and all that stuff had nothing to do with the Quran,
Yeah.
but a lot of.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just gonna say, like, I mean, there's just so much nonsense in the hadith that if I start talking about it, like, it's just crazy, ridiculous, like all the nonsense that they have come up with. I mean, a lot of people don't even read that stuff, but like, there's all these like, even the people who believe in hadith, like a lot of hadiths, like if you tell them, like, they just look at you with disbelief.
Yeah, yeah. That I remember some of the I think the hadiths you had
Posted.
messaged. Yeah, you showed the group. I didn't even. I thought I had heard of some, like, crazy hadiths, like if you spit on your left side, that's the side Satan spits on. So you're not. They'll beat you with a stick or something. Or if you sleep on, I think on your left side is another one. They'll come and hit you with a stick, because they said that's the side Satan sleeps on. And I'm like, well, what if you accidentally turn in your sleep and you turn? I mean, but people actually believe this, and then, this is the stuff that, like, makes it. It's just really sad. This is the stuff that makes it to sometimes mainstream news. I mean, especially like with after 9/11. But luckily, a lot of that stuff died down. People today are actually really accepting. Like, I was just in the chapel. Um, as I think I was talking about on Tuesday. There was this, old lady. She wasn't a Muslim or Semitic or anything. I could tell, she was a Christian, but she saw me, praying or whatever. When I was done, she just smiled at me, and she was like, "It's really nice to see somebody pray." And she was like, "Are you a Muslim?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a Muslim, Semitic." And she was really she was cool with it. She liked. So I guess, nowadays people are becoming much more accepting, and yeah, mashallah. Yeah, I didn't go to a church or a chapel or anything to pray. This was like a place when I was traveling, to stop at.
Right.
Just wanted to clear that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that, when you show them something so profound like the Quran's mathematical miracle, that's so intricate and amazing, and they can't accept it, and then you showed them these ridiculous hadiths, and they have no problem accepting them, right? It's fascinating.
Yeah, I actually never thought about it like that, but you're right. That is mind blowing. The more you think about that. Yeah, like to accept a blatant lie, that even from a logical perspective makes no sense. But when you give them like pure truth and like everything that logically makes sense, like 1+1 = 2, like math doesn't lie. Like it's you have two apples, you can never make that three. But these people, like the mathematical miracle is irrefutable. But for some reason they just have a problem with it, or they're blinded from seeing it.
Yeah, subhanAllah. Also, I think it's important to point out that these verses, like especially Surah 73, I mean, really talks about the importance of meditation at night being far more effective and being righteous. And so, it says in verse 8, you shall commemorate the name of your Lord to come ever closer and closer to him. So it, we understand that, and it talks about, how, this is extra credit for our soul. I mean, of course, like, if you really want to excel at your soul growth and being closest to God, I mean, really for extra credit, as God says, we need to meditate in the night. And so, reading the Quran, doing our commemoration and all of this stuff is important. And when it says the meditation at night is more effective, I mean, there are like physical, well, there are like benefits. What am I saying? So there are like proofs from like. I mean, I'm just kind of getting lost for words, but like it's just fasting. So what I'm trying to say is, so I mean, like we understand that the way the brain works and everything, how the daylight affects your mind and everything. Like you are more, you're able to relax and like use your creative side of the brain, and you're more of the imaginative side of your brain. You're able to use that part of your brain more at the time in the evening, right? And so, and also because you have less distraction and all this stuff, right? So I mean, this is why God has created night and day, and he also sets up the night in this manner, for us to facilitate us in commemorating God at that time. So especially with Ramadan, as we have more different schedules, like different from our like normal schedules, because a lot of us will wake up before dawn and eat and stuff, or a lot of people will stay up all night even. So it's good that we use that time, also, or some of that time, to commemorate God as much as we can. I think we have some good examples from like how to meditate and how to commemorate God, from the Messenger of the Covenant as well. But the thing is, like, you don't have to have like follow any certain format or any rules in how you want to do your meditation, right? So I mean, you can do whatever way works for you. Like some people do it. There's so many ways people will meditate, right? And so God is encouraging us to do that, for some part of our day specifically, for this purpose. And you will see that, with just even a small portion of your time, that if you set for this, like, it makes, I mean, obviously we're really just doing it for our hereafter and because we love God, and we appreciate Him. But really, you can see, like, also the physical and psychological benefits and so many other things, right? But really, God makes everything easy for us, and you can see, like, even your day will be a lot more happier and everything. But the biggest thing is that you're doing it to grow your soul, and we need this time for us to be able to make our soul stronger. And so whatever we can do, I mean, meditation is just something that you can do it while you're doing anything, right? I mean, of course, it's great that if you can really just put your mind to it and just focus, right? It's very important that you mean what you're saying, not just repeating yourself like a robot. But still, like, if you want to gain extra credit, I mean, you can even commemorate God while you're driving or doing anything, just remembering God at that time, I mean, so we can make up, like, a lot of credit in this manner, and it will help us overall to make God our God, as we shared earlier, to just remember God, throughout the day, as God says, we have to worship Him day and night, right?
MashaAllah. So I have a question about the meditation. I know you said that the messenger had given us maybe a few examples of meditation. Like, if let's say we were to put on one of his, watch one of his videos, open the Quran and study with him out of that. Is that a form of meditation? Besides like praying.
Yeah, I mean, that is also a form of meditation, but the fact that, I mean, anything you're doing to commemorate God, right? But the thing is, like, he was specific. I was specifically referring to commemoration, where you're repeatedly commemorating God's name. And so, when I was talking about the examples, we have like recordings from the Night of Destiny. So, God willing, I'll share it with you.
Okay,
Where
mashallah. Thank you.
I've not shared it with you before.
No, no. I remember the live stream.
Okay,
Is
I'll
it
share it with you, inshallah.
mashallah? Yeah, mashallah. I wanted to say another thing about fasting. I heard from somebody the other day. I was just taking their word for it, but they did, I guess, a little bit of research on Ramadan or fasting. And they said dry fasting with, with no water, no food is actually was super. I mean, I knew fasting, you read how it's good for you, but the dry fasting is extremely good. Like, it makes changes. This was this person telling me what they read from a doctor. This doctor was I think going writing. I don't know if it was a video they saw or article, but they basically said the millions of people are about to enter into this period of fasting. This is what the doctor was saying, and he was just explaining how the dry fasting is so healthy, what it does on the cellular level, and like down to like the mitochondria regeneration. And I didn't even know that. I thought that was amazing, and that just shows, God knows best, because He could have made it like where we could have had water and or just fasted from food, but He everything he tells us to do is for a good reason. I mean, like you said, brother, we're not doing it for these things. We're doing it for for God and to develop our souls. And these are just added benefits. But I thought that was like a really really interesting thing.
Mhm. The fasting has a lot of benefits, especially with, I mean, all these people, are looking for ways to, um, you know, uh, have weight loss. And, I mean, and they're not just looking for weight loss, they're looking for fat loss. And now, like, it's common knowledge that intermittent fasting is something that all you need really, instead of doing anything else, to be able to do that. I mean, there's so many other benefits, right? But subhanallah, I mean, the thing is that really the main purpose behind our fasting, though, is, I mean, obviously we reap all these benefits, right? They're like side effects, um, uh, but advantages, right? A bonus, I meant, not side effects. They're all bonuses. But the thing is that we're really doing it to for to be able to tame our souls, right? So so I mean, so basically, so the soul can basically tame the body, right? And not because as the message of the covenant explains, at all other times, like, we're doing everything the body wants. The body wants food, the body wants so many things, luxuries, all these things, and we're just constantly working for the body. Now it is time that you're training your body to listen to your soul, right? Your body is hungry. Your body wants all these things, but you're telling your body that no, it's not time yet. And so this helps you get as he said, tame the wild horse, right? That's interesting. It's good that we actually talk about fasting, because I don't think this whole Ramadan we even discuss fasting during our Quran studies. This is the first time we're actually talking about it.
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah, I'm just reading about it right now, and subhanallah, there is a lot going on for fasting, and one of the things that can actually, lots of things that it can do is that it helps grow new brain cells, and then balances cholesterol levels, lowers blood sugar, prevents osteoporosis, which is helps you rid like the body rid itself of old diseased cells and enables new stem cells to replace
Mm-hmm.
worn out ones, and then improves your immune system, reduces inflammation, lowers body weight. And the thing is that what one thing that I am actually uh, I'm understanding is that the consistency of fasting is very important.
Mm-hmm.
This 29 or 30 days, depending on the time of like of the year or whenever it is, the Ramadan actually is placed in the solar calendar. Then the time of the day, as well as the number of the days, consistently can help you, get used to it, and then it has a lingering effect throughout the whole year until the next Ramadan. And that's why it is really important to do the whole like month. That's why it is a commandment from God, because it has like a consistent effect that adds up, through different days of fasting. Subhanallah. Yeah, Subhanallah. Helps you with tiredness, get rid of poor focus. Um,
Mhm.
There's a lot going on, subhanallah.
But as Brother Salman said, the, why am I getting echoes? Okay, the main function is actually to goals because, and we should emphasize that actually as submitters, because there are non-submitters and there are disbelievers who say, I'm healthy, I'm focused, I have a good body, I'm a athletic person, so I don't need fasting. Or they might use other days of the year to fast, and they say, see, my body is healthy now. So these are just, Satan uses anything, uses this, the rewards or the bonuses that we get to distract people and say, oh, the whole purpose is for you to get healthy. Now you're healthy, so then you don't need that. But we know that the main purpose is to be obedient and to purge our idolatry and to grow our souls, become a boss of our body. And that's the main purpose that we should focus on. And maybe if we are talking to people about Ramadan, maybe that's the first thing that we should bring up, in my opinion. After, they will see the rewards. These are the other rewards that we get with Ramadan, mashallah.
And it's really interesting that there are some people online, that I'm just searching right now. I see that some people have used dry fasting and created like a weight loss program, and they're making money off of it. Something that we have for free in submission, they're making money off of it, and people have to pay money for for getting into the program to lose weight and stay healthy. It's really interesting how people are doing that.
Right. Yeah. Something that's given freely to us. People are. Yeah. That just shows. Going with God's rules and laws and commandments is the best thing. He's not gonna even says he doesn't ask us for any money. But yeah, these people. You know, that's crazy. Yeah, because most of the stuff I look like you do a YouTube search on dry fasting, you see people do it. You know, uh, I guess they're doing it. Ultimate, I mean, fasting. They're doing it, but they're missing the point of like, I guess the origins and why we fast. Because I mean, I think even in parts of the old scripture, in the Bible and stuff, you tells you to fast or it talks about it. But yeah, it's like people's motivation should be for the right reasons. Because when that person I was just talking about earlier, Brother Masood, he mentioned the stem cells. That person that actually brought that up, and I was pretty amazed. But then I was thinking, I was like, I mean, God willing, this person can be guided, But I guess from what I got from him, they were more interested, perhaps, in fasting than for I guess the bonuses aspect instead of making training your soul to be the boss of your body, making the soul the boss, because the body wants what it wants. Um, Maybe they missed the cue, but God willing, you know, they'll be guided.
So also, Huda wanted me to share a comment about how Satan has deprived the so-called Muslim women of fasting. When they have their menstrual cycle, during this period, like they're not allowed to fast. and so they miss out as well, among other things.
Wait, so they stop Ramadan whenever, or they just don't do it altogether?
They don't do the days that they're actually menstruating. They think they're
Wow.
not fast.
I think the hadith is in the same book that giving actually water to cat will take you to heaven. You know, so it's all based on nonsense hadith, and yeah, Satan, yeah.
Yeah, the sin always, I'll just feed the cats, you know.
I mean, imagine if it was that easy. You could just feed a cat water, you know, that and helped it, and then you would get paradise. I mean,
Huda would be like the elite of the elite because she's fish and everything.
Yeah. I think they do the doesn't maybe the messenger talked about it. They do something or they try to make another innovation, you know, for women that I think they can't read. Is it that they can't read the Quran if they're on the menstrual period? Or I didn't know that about fasting. But isn't there another thing they prevent them from or doing maybe the contact prayers? Or
Yeah,
I think the messenger talked about it.
Contact prayers either. They don't read the Quran for sure. I think contact prayers they still do, right?
No, brother, they don't.
No.
Don't do the contact prayer then. No.
And there is another stupid idea for actually not fasting when you are traveling, you know. People are traveling and then they say that, oh, we are traveling, we can't fast, you know. Like they have gone to another country, they're just like settled. They are, there's no problem for fasting. They can fast, but they say that, no, we are traveling. I'm not going to fast. Because if I'm out of my city, I cannot fast. And there is another thing about breaking, like broken salat. I'm just translating it, you know, to English. That if you are out of the city that you are living, then your 4-unit prayers, and namely noon, asr, and then the isha, the night, will be broken into half. Like you should do 2, and it's stupid, you know. It's still it's coming out of a hadith. Why would you do that, you know?
Yeah. So I guess in certain parts of the world now, it's time for sunset.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe Jaffar's already gone and Huda also left. So I guess if there are no other comments or questions, God willing, we can also conclude.
Yes, inshallah.
All right. So thank you all for joining, mashallah, and thank you, Brother John, for leading the study. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
God
bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. God bless.